Hey, what's up? I thought it was about time to do another kawaii illustration. This time we will create these cute veggies. Although this little tomato guy should probably be called fruit, but who cares? Let's create this super kawaii trio. The canvas we're working on is 3500 pixels by 3500 pixels. And if you're ready, let's get started. First, let's create a sketch. To do that, let me grab a dark color, like a dark gray. And for the brush, I would like to use the basic sketcher from the basic set. If you don't already have it, make sure to update your basic set just by going to the post where you can download it. The opacity of the brush is at 100%. I have the size set to 15%. And we are going to use very simple shapes for our characters. First, we'll start off with a circular shape for our main character, our little turnip type of guy. And it has these leaves at the top of its head. And here at the bottom, it has these two rounded feet. I do feel like it's a little bit too high up, so let's move it around. Let's go to the Move and Transform tool. I'll place it about here. And it can be slightly bigger, so something like this. And then I'll go back to the brush. So everything is still very rough. So we can just sketch out those main shapes, these leaves here. And it won't be exactly round. It'll move towards these feet here. And then over here we have this little radish kind of guy. It's a smaller one, also a rounded shape. And let's give this these longer leaves to make it contrast with the leaves on top of the head of the main character. Because we want some variation in our characters. And then over here, this one is a little bit more like squished. Also rounded, but different than the others. This is the tomato guy or girl. And also smaller than the biggest one. And I'd like to give it these rounded leaves. It's not like real tomatoes, but this is a kawaii doodle type of illustration. We can do whatever we like. So this is like as if this character has this curly hair almost. So this one has more like spiky hair, curly hair, and this one has like big wavy hair. They all have different hairdos or leaf do's. So it nicely spreads towards the outside. And let's add a leaf here and maybe one sticking out here. And then for its mouth, I want it to be in the center here. It has a big smile like this. So these lines are sticking out, and then we have this horizontal line here and a little tongue. And then we'll put the eyes next to it. And we also want to give it rosy cheeks. I always like those for these kawaii illustrations. And then this one will have smaller eyes, a little bit towards the outside of its face, and an oval-like shape for its mouth here. And also rosy cheeks. And then for this one, first its little mouth. Also a nice little smile. And these small eyes. And now we have a nice base on which we can work. Let's make a more refined sketch on top of this. So let's go to the layer menu and tap the N. Slide to like 30% and then tap the plus for a new layer on which we can create our more refined sketch. Let's start with the body of our turnip guy. Can make it a bit more flat at the top. And mostly we just need a good base for our line art. So we'll know what line to follow. We have its little feet. So this is just a bit less messy than our first sketch. We can zoom in a little bit. Create that shape for the leaf on top here. And this is not realistic, a realistic turnip, or these are not realistic vegetables. So you can just create whatever shape you like for these leaves. Because these guys, unfortunately, they don't really exist. And maybe that's for the best, because I'm not sure if I would be eating vegetables if they would look like this. They would look way too cute to eat. So we have this shape, and then on the other side, like a heart shape almost, or cloud-like shape. Here we can make some lines on that leaf. It actually reminds me of a video game character, I think. Not sure from what game. Maybe these are in Super Mario. This wavy shape here. And then its mouth. So it's like a U shape here. And then that line in between. And that little tongue. And the eyes. And those rosy cheeks. And for this little guy, it's a bit shaped like this. Like a tiny little radish. And it's a bit like, well, it's a bit surprised or in shock. And I want these rosy cheeks, I want that to go over the eyes in this case. Then let's refine these leaves a little bit. Add some rounded shapes on the outside like this. And here in the center, a pointy shape. Then for our tomato, it's a little bit squished, a little bit flat. And it will have these lines like this, like little creases. Let's first make these two shapes like this for the base of those leaves. And then let's make these rounded shapes. A bit like little clouds to give this tomato that look as if it has a nice head full of curls. And we can make some lines like this, like leaf veins. I think it looks really cute. Then for its eyes, I'm gonna make them a little bit lower. And a smile in between. We have our final sketch now, so let's start creating our line art. Let's lower the opacity of our lower sketch even more. I like it to still be a little bit visible, so I'm setting it at 8%, and then I'll pinch these two together. Now let's lower the opacity of our merge layer and set this to 30%, and then we'll tap the plus for a new layer to get started with our line art. To create our line art, I would like to go to the illustration brushes and use the smooth lines brush. And for the color, let's start with this one. That's the fourth color in the first row. We'll use that for the outline of our big main character, our turnip. And the opacity of the brush is at 100%, and let's set the size to 20%. And now this is a great exercise to practice creating smooth lines. So don't worry if you need lots of tries. Believe me, I need multiple tries as well. Now let's get started by rotating this, and then we'll make the curve on this side. Let me undo that. So let's start here, and let's make a curve like this. And then go around and create the other side, making it a little bit more rounded, but that's okay. We can actually tweak our line by going to the magic wand, then to liquify, set it to push with distortion and momentum set to none. Make the brush a little bit bigger, maybe 50. And then we can slightly push this inward, because I do want to have a little bit of space between our big turnip and our little radish. So let's grab the brush again, and then let's go for its feet. Rounded shape, little curved line here, then this one. And I want to add a little wavy line here, like this, and over here as well, as if it has been standing in the dirt. Let's drag in the color here. And now we can actually make our line a little bit thicker. We can tweak it a little bit. And at the same time, you can tidy it up a little bit. Just want it to be a little bit thicker. Since this is our main character, I want to emphasize its outline. We'll go over the top. I'm trying to work from my wrist. Rotating my canvas. Making this a little bit thicker. I think something like this, but then without the dot. Let's tap and hold the eraser to make it switch to the smooth lines, and then get rid of that. Then let's move on to these leaves here. Let's make a layer underneath this one. So let's tap layer 1, then tap the plus. And then for the color, we will grab this one over here. First color in the second row. And then we'll do the same. Trying to make smooth lines. this one. And this one at the top. And then let's make the leaves, or the outlines of the leaves in front here, these three, let's make those a little bit thicker. So I'll go along those lines again, giving them a little bit more weight. This one as well. And finally, the one on this side. Now let's also create its mouth. Let's go and create another layer. Let's tap the plus, and then let's grab this color again for fourth color in the first row. And let's create that mouth. Make a curve like this. And then that line over here. And a curve for the tongue. You can hold your pen in place for a nice smooth curve. And then drag in the color. Then for the eyes, draw a circle, hold your pen in place, and tap one finger on the screen for a perfectly round circle. Drag in the color, and do the same thing on the other side. Hold your pen in place, tap one finger on the screen, and try to make it the same size as the other one. So something like this, and drag in the color. Then on this layer, let's also add the pink for our tongue. Let's grab this color over here, 10th color in the first row, and drag it in here. And then for the little highlights on the eyes, let's grab pure white. Let's double tap here to grab white. And then let's make a little circle over here. Hold your pen in place, tap one finger on the screen, fill it in. And then same thing on the other side. Hold your pen in place, tap one finger on the screen, and fill it in. Now let's move on and create the outlines for the other characters. Let's start with our little tomato. Let's make a new layer. Let's make the layer on top of the outline of our big turnip. So let's tap that layer first and tap the plus for a new layer. And then for the color, let's grab this one over here, 9th color in the first row. And then let's rotate the canvas a bit and try to make a smooth curve like this. And then on the other side, try to make these connect. And to tweak your line, you can also grab the eraser, which is already set to the smooth lines brush. Make that a little bit smaller, maybe 15%. And then you can go along your lines and tweak them a bit. Then for these lines over here, I would like to use the tapered lines brush. So let's go to the brushes, grab the tapered lines. The opacity is at 100% and the size is at 10. And now let's create these curves here. Another one here. Let's make it a little bit smaller, and then one here. Just add one extra. And this line. Now we'll make the lines for those leaves. We'll make those on top of this layer. So let's make a new layer. Let's tap the plus. And then for the color, let's grab this first color in the second row. And let's also grab the smooth lines brush again. And then let's first create these shapes. And then we'll go and create this cloud-like shape. Then let's switch to the tapered lines brush again for those lines here. 1, 2, curve one over here, 3, and 4. It almost looks like this curled hair with a little bow. Now for the eyes and mouth, let's put those on a new layer. Let's tap the plus, and then for the color, we'll go back to this one, 4th color in the 1st row. And for the brush, we need the smooth lines brush again. Let's first create the mouth. Let's hold our pen in place for a nice curved line. Now let's make this curve and then drag in the color. And then I'd like to erase a little part here. And then let's go along here and make that a little bit more pointy. Those upward, those sides there. I think this looks great. Now let's grab the brush again for the eyes. Create a circle, hold your pen in place, tap one finger on the screen, and drag in the color. Draw a circle, hold your pen in place, tap one finger on the screen, and then drag in the color. Now I want this one to look a little bit derpy. Let's grab white by double tapping here, and let's add one highlight on this side and one on this side. That will give a little bit of a derpy look to our tomato. Then for the other one, let's create, well, we don't really need to create a new layer. We can actually go to this one where we have the outline of our tomato. Let's go there, and for this one, for the outline, we'll use this color over here, 8 color in the 1st row. Let's go in there and let's create that outline. And of course, you can tidy this up a little bit again by going over there and using the eraser if you need to make the line a little bit thinner. And let's actually grab the brush and close the shape here. And then we'll go over on a new layer for those leaves. Let's go to this layer over here, layer 6, where we have the outline for the leaves of our tomato. And then for the color, let's grab this one over here. That's the 8 color in the 2nd row. So we'll start here. And then let's create these leaves. This one. And then for this line, let's grab the tapered lines brush again, so we can get a nice pointy shape. Actually, I want it to be a little bit thinner. Let's grab a size of 5%. That's better. All right, then for the eyes, let's go to this layer where we have the eyes of our tomato. We can work on this one. For the color, we'll grab the 4th color in the 1st row again. And for the brush, we will grab the smooth lines brush. And let's actually first create the mouth. Let's make the brush a little bit smaller, 5%. And let's create a shape like this. And for the eyes, circle over here. I want it to be a little bit lower actually. Let's go to circle here at the top. Move it downward a little bit. I think that looks just a bit more derpy. Then drag in the color. Then make the other one over here. Hold your pen in place. Tap one finger on the screen. Then go to circle here. So you can move it around if you need to. And then drag in the color. And then for the white of the eye, let's double tap here. And let's make the brush bigger again. Let's set it to 20%. And this time I want one circle to be here and the other one here. And let's also fill this area with pink. Let's grab the 10th color in the first row and drag it in here. Now, before I forget, let's also add these lines to the leaves of this little guy. Let's go to this layer again, layer 3. Let's grab that dark green again. That's this one, first color in the second row. And for the brush, we need the smooth lines brush. And then let's just follow these lines like this. Next, before we add our flat colors to our characters, let's change our background color. Let's go to the layer menu and tap background color and set it to this one over here. First color in the first row. Now for our flat colors. Let's first merge these 3 layers. So that's the face of our big guy, the leaves, and its body. Let's pinch these together. Then we'll tap this layer and set it to reference. Now we can make a layer underneath this. So we'll go to layer 1 first, then tap the plus, and we can actually turn off our sketch. Then on this layer, we are going to fill our color. Let's grab this one, 5th color in the first row, and drag it onto the body. Then for the leaves, I'd like to create a different layer. So let's go to the layer menu, tap the plus, and then for the color, let's grab this one over here, 3rd color in the second row. Let's drag it in here. You can also use continue filling and tap in these areas to fill those as well. Then for our tomato and radish, we need to set this layer to reference instead of this one. So tap the layer, set it to reference, and then make a layer underneath. So first tap this one and tap the plus. Then for our tomato, we will grab this color, first color in the 3rd row, drag it in, and also drag it in here. And for this guy, we are going to use this color. That's the 6th color in the 2nd row. Then for the leaves, we need to set this layer to reference. So tap it, turn on reference, then tap this layer, tap the plus for a new layer on top. Then for the color, let's grab this one over here, 5th color in the 3rd row. Let's drag it in here, then tap continue filling, tap here and here. Then for this one, we will grab this color, 9th color in the 2nd row. We can simply tap here and fill these areas. And then for the next color, we will grab this one. That's the 7th color in the 3rd row. Let's tap here. Now we have all our base colors. Now it's time to add more color variety. Let's start with this layer over here with the body of our turnip. Let's tap the plus for a new layer on top and set that layer to clipping mask so that whatever we draw here, it'll only show up on the body of our turnip. Let's also make sure to turn off reference here. So just tap the layer, turn off reference, and then go back to our clip layer here. And then for our color, let's grab this one, 6th color in the 1st row. And we are going to add some light. We're going to make a shape like this, a little bit like a very weird heart shape. Like this, dragging the color, and actually make it a little bit bigger. Dragging the color. This is going to add some variety to our turnip. Let's also grab this color. That's the 8th color in the 1st row. Let's use that at the top here for something like a bit of a shadow here. Close the shape, drag in the color. I also want to add some more light, but let's do that on a new layer. Let's tap the plus, set this layer to clipping mask as well, and then grab this color, an even lighter color. That's the 7th color in the 1st row. And let's make a rounded shape like this, covering the eye, drag in the color, and another shape over here, drag in the color. So now we have some nice color variety here. Then let's just pinch these layers together like this. And now let's make a new layer on top here. Let's tap the plus, set this layer to clipping mask as well, and then tap the N to set the layer blending mode of this layer to multiply. So whatever we draw on here, it'll turn out to look darker. Then for the color, let's grab this one, 8 color in the first row. And for the brush, we will grab the tapered lines brush. And now we are going to add some like curved lines and little ovals like this. That's for that texture on our turnip. So it needs to follow that rounded shape. The little curves. Following the roundness of its body. Over here, and then those little ovals in some places. Then I'd also like to grab a darker color, this one over here, 9th color in the first row. And let's actually grab the smooth lines brush again, and then add some extra dark spots. Just in some random places. So you get something like this. I'd like to tone this down a little bit. So let's go to the layer, tab the M, and slide to like 45%. And finally, let's also give our character those rosy cheeks. So let's tab the plus for a new layer. And let's grab this color, 10th color in the first row. And then let's make a rosy cheek over here, drag in the color, and over here. And drag in the color. I do feel like this one is a little bit too close to this leaf. So let's go to the selection tool, the S shape ribbon, set it to freehand, make sure that color fill is turned off, select this one, then go to the move and transform tool, the little arrow, and place it a little bit to the right. And then tab the arrow again. That's better. Now let's move on to those leaves. Let's go to layer 7, tap the plus for a new layer, and set that layer to clipping mask. Now let's move upward. And then for our color, let's grab this one over here, 2nd color in the 2nd row. And let's make a wavy line along our leaves like this, loop around to close it, and drag in the color. Now let's switch to this color, 4th color in the 2nd row. And we'll use that for another wavy line. Like this. And then we'll make that follow that top part. So follow those lines, loop around to close the shape, and then drag in the color. Then let's also make an edge over here at the top. Loop around to close it and drag in the color. Then let's add some extra little circles and blobs over here, here. And let's also do that with the darker color. So with the 2nd color in the 2nd row, let's use that for some blobs here as well. This is already adding so much more interest to our little character. Now let's switch to the eraser to erase some parts and also add some blobs, some little ovals here. Also over here. Just some random little shapes. And then finally, let's add the lightest color. This one over here. That's the 5th color in the 2nd row. Let's use that for a little highlight edge. And over here. And here. You can make it a little bit wobbly. It's totally fine. So there we have our big turnip. Let's move on to the other guys. Actually, once you're happy with all this, you could just pinch it together. Let's go on to layer 8 here. Let's create a new layer on top by tapping the plus, set that to clipping mask. And then first, let's grab this color over here. 2nd color in the 3rd row. Let's go to our tomato and add a bit of a darker edge around it. Loop around to close it, drag in the color. Let's also add some darker red here. And you could actually go in with the eraser and make it curve just a bit more along that edge. And for the rosy cheeks, let's grab the brush again. Add one over here and one over here. And then let's also add some highlights. Let's grab this color, 3rd color in the 3rd row. Let's add a little oval here. Drag in the color. And over here. Big shape, drag in the color, and a smaller one here. Now for this guy. For this one, we are going to grab this color over here, 7th color in the 2nd row. Let's first add a little bit of a shadow here at the top, drag in the color, and then a little edge along the side. And for the highlights, I realize I haven't added the color there. So let me just magically add that to our color palette here. There we have it, our color for the highlight. Of course, it was already there for you, but not for me. Little highlight here and here. Drag in the color. Then for the rosy cheeks, we need to put those on a new layer. So let's just create a new layer on top of this one, on top of the eyes. Let's tap the plus. Then for the color, let's grab this one, the last color, 10th color in the 1st row. And let's add 2 of these rosy cheeks going over the eyes. Then for some texture on this little radish, let's go to this layer, then tap the plus for a new layer on top. Set it to clipping mask. And then set the layer blending mode of this one to multiply. So tab the end and scroll up to multiply. Then for the color, let's just use this one, 7th color in the 2nd row. And for the brush, we will go to the tapered lines brush. And then just like with the other guy, let's make some curves, some lines, well, that follow the curve. Over here. That'll add some interest to this little fellow. And for the leaves, once you're happy with this, actually, you can just pinch this together. And then let's go to the leaves over here. Let's tap the plus for a new layer, set that to clipping mask. And then for this little radish, let's grab this color, 10th color in the 2nd row. And for the brush, we will go back to the smooth lines brush. And then let's add a little dark edge over here. A little bit over here. Yeah, something like this. Then grab the lighter color. That's this one. 7th color in the 3rd row. And let's grab the tapered lines brush again. And add a little line here. And over here as well. Then let's move on to this one. Let's grab the smooth lines brush again. And then for the color, let's first grab this one over here, 6th color in the 3rd row. And let's make a bit of a shape like this. Loop around to close it, drag in the color. Then let's grab the eraser and make these rounded shapes here. Let's actually make the brush a little bit bigger, 40%. So just rounded shapes. Little dot here, just some extra little blobs. Then let's grab another color. We'll grab this one over here, 4th color in the 3rd row, and grab the brush, still the smooth lines brush. And then let's create more of these rounded shapes here. Drag in the color and add some extra blobs. I think that looks great. Now for the final touches, let's add a simple shadow underneath our characters. So let's tap the plus for a new layer and drag it underneath the rest. Then for the color, let's grab this one over here, 2nd color in the 1st row. And let's make a big oval. Hold your pen in place like this. Then drag in the color. Then we can go to the Move and Transform tool, set it to freeform, and now we can just play around with this. I want it to be nice and a little bit thin. Let me turn off snapping here. I think something like this looks good. Now let's make a new layer on top of this. Let's tap the plus. Let's grab the next color, the 3rd color in the 1st row. And now let's make more ovals right underneath our characters. Tap one finger on the screen to make it perfectly horizontal. Then go to ellipse here. You can change it a bit. Drag in a color and do the same over here. Little shadow for this guy. Drag in the color. And for our tomato, let me go to edit. Move it just slightly and then drag in the color. Now finally, I want to add a few random shapes to our background to add some interest. Let's pinch these together actually, then tap the plus, and let's grab pure white. So double tap here for white. Let's zoom out a little bit. And for instance, I just want some cross-like shapes. Some big, some small. And you can tap or hold your finger on the screen to get that perfect angle. Some over here. But you can also go for a different pattern for your background, of course. Maybe some circles. Some can be filled. Vary the size a bit. Until you have a nice, well, until it's nicely filled. Perhaps one over here. That just adds that extra little touch, that extra interest to our illustration, and then we can call it finished. I hope you've enjoyed creating these kawaii veggies. I'm really looking forward to seeing your healthy friends, so be sure to share them. I would like to thank you for watching, thank you for being here, and I will see you next time for the next tutorial.